Fibromyalgia, the pain is in the brain, Part 2. The brain has a lifelong ability to reorganize neural pathways and has the ability to change with learning. This is called brain plasticity. The advances in research that have been conducted have revealed that the brain can change in response to experiences. It can be trained by learning new ways of responding rather than the constant reacting to stimuli, particularly to the real or perceived needs of others, which is common in fibromyalgia. It isn't easy, but with awareness, it can be done. In short, the brain is not static, it can be retrained. The pattern of our overly empathetic emotions, which appear to be solidified within us, for those with fibromyalgia, can be trained, changed, by the brain to differentiate between necessary compassion and empathy responses, and overly empathetic reactions to others, as in being an empath, to that which is more realistic. The anxiety and stressful emotions which plague our everyday lives are in our brains but can be retrained to send different messages to become happy and peaceful, while minimizing the overstimulation of the adrenals, thereby reducing pain in the brain. Rather than repeating these same patterns of responses to pain brought about by stored memories, new neural pathways can bring about needed changes to our thoughts and emotions. It sounds so easy. It isn't, but the work of such people as John Kabat-Zinn, Full Catastrophe Living, David Butler and Lorimer Moseley, Explain Pain, Craig Hassed, Know Thyself. Richard Davidson, his work on the regulation of emotions, and Daniel Amen, Change Your Brain, Norman Doidge, The Brain That Changes Itself, Sandra and Matthew Blakesley. The body has a mind of its own, among many others who built upon the work of earlier neuroplasticity Alexander Luria, Michael Merzenich. Paul Bach-Rita has led me to believe that there are strategies which we can employ that will help in this retraining process. It takes hard work and discipline. We are the ones we have been waiting for. No one else can do this work for us. It is the work of Diane Jacobs and Nick Matheson, physiotherapists, which has recently brought me to these insights, although Peter Goodman, as an RMT and psychotherapist, and now an osteopath, an expert in this domain as well, many years ago first started me thinking of these issues. However, brain research is such a fast-growing science that new revelations are changing the way scientists are thinking every day, and it isn't easy to keep up. For those of us who are not physiologists or well-schooled in that discipline, often all of these findings are not easy to understand. Furthermore, although I have been toying with these ideas for quite some time, what I present here is an overly simplistic view of the complex physiology of the brain. Neuroplasticity, brain mapping, the interconnectedness of various parts of the brain with the body. A more in-depth understanding of the difference between the mind and the brain, if indeed the mind is an actual entity. And more comprehensive knowledge about brain science are a bit beyond me at this point. But I am certain that with a deeper scientific knowledge of the brain and its ability to change, we are on the right path to a greater understanding of many illnesses and diseases. The future is with more evidence-based knowledge of the complexity of the brain. The work of Dr. Bud Craig and the interoceptive pathway fits well with the pain of fibromyalgia. Much of his work is difficult for me to understand, but I found an article of his from the Wellcome Trust on mapping pain in the brain that is a bit easier to read. We are told that neuroplasticity is our friend and that it requires novelty, attention, and repetition to change the brain. Or as the Buddhist Kalu Rinpoche has suggested, take a simple activity that requires attention but not much intellectual effort, and do it again and again. That, by the way, is why I have taken up the new project of hand sewing a quilt, something I have never done before. In fact, it might not require more understanding of the brain physiology at all on my part. but rather a constant discipline, attention moment to my breathing, and remembering to move my body. I quote here from the brilliant Diane Jacobs, who has given me permission to do so, and who says that the aim is to increase the ability to self-regulate. Reconceptualize the problem. Help the nervous system to calm itself down. Employ psychological techniques. One of her important pieces of advice is to remember that hurt does not equal harm, and this is important for those of us who have persistent pain which changes in location and nature. Letting pain be our guide actually increases our risk of developing ongoing pain-related anxiety and avoidance, Jacobs writes. We must learn techniques such as mindfulness-based approaches, reframing our stories, and challenging assumptions to unfreeze our responses to chronic pain. Kabat-Zinn's clinic in the US and Hased's work in the medical school in Australia have succeeded in bringing changes in medical curricula. So the hope is building that physicians, as well as other health professionals, will help us to help ourselves. Most importantly, it is diaphragmatic breathing that remains one of the most significant ways of changing the image and stories of pain within our brains. Keeping an activity diary will help us to determine patterns over time, and you will have charted your own brain's neuroplastic capacity plus your own determination, says Jacobs. Above all, motion is lotion and movement is crucial to our well-being. Using our bodies to train our brains means that there is indeed a connection between body/brain/emotions. It is not hopeless to live with fibromyalgia. Maybe we can't cure it, but we can learn ways to avoid catastrophizing as our constant reaction to each new pain, or the old pains that never seem to leave. As Kabat-Zinn has written, being told that you have to learn to live with pain should not be the end of the road, it should be the beginning. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel.